news right here on your TV. It's Tuesday, September 1st, and I'm Jessica Kading. 3 more Halton residents have tested positive with COVID-19 since yesterday. That being said, 3 of Burlington's residents have recovered, so the new total number of active cases in Burlington is now 7. There's 1 additional case reported in Oakville, bringing their total to 11, and 1 less active case being reported in Milton, whose total is now 9. Halton Hills continues to have 0 cases to report. Burlington Mayor Marianne Mead Ward had an update for us today that will affect the protesters outside of Fearmans pork processing facility after the recent tragedy. Failure to adhere to these new rules could land individuals with a seriously hefty fine as of tomorrow.
Well, one of the big pieces of news that is going to affect us directly is legislation that will go into effect tomorrow, September 2nd, and that relates to provincial legislation that around protesting activities around meat processing plants. And of course, we have Fearmans in Burlington. It has been the site of many protests for years and years, which up until very recently had been conducted very safely. And very recently, tragically, we lost a resident of Hamilton, actually, who had come regularly to those protests. Regan Russell was run over by a truck and killed. A terrible, terrible situation. And so the legislation that is being brought forward would continue to allow for protests. We, of course, support the right of people to freedom of expression, to protest. And we also want to make sure it's done safely for the protesters, safely for the truck drivers and employees of the plant, and for other people in and around that area who are driving or walking on the streets and sidewalks. So the legislation will make it an offense to approach truck, to block a truck, or to trespass onto any meat processing facility. And so we're going to continue to support the right of protesters to be at Fearmans, and also the police will be looking at that legislation, and that will become the law tomorrow. And it will be enforceable. The fines are very steep: $15,000 for a first offense, $25,000 for a subsequent offense. And so we're really hoping that people will simply make the right choice, not because of the legislation, but because their safety and that of others really depends on people behaving safely and protesting in a safe manner, and letting the truck drivers also do their job. So that is coming tomorrow, and I'll have more to say on my blog, and I know the police will have more to say about that tomorrow as well.
We were also able to get the latest on Burlington's downtown core and the official plan.
So there's a couple of big steps coming up with our official plan. The staff have now recommended, and council unanimously supported, that we ask the region and province to remove the major transit station designation downtown, as well as shifting the boundaries of the urban growth center downtown to more closely align with the Burlington GO station boundaries. And we believe that will take some of the pressure of overdevelopment away from the downtown. You know, we're well on track to meet the density targets that are captured in those designations. In fact, we're going to exceed them before the deadline, and so really the pressure should be off. But those designations remaining continue to create some pressure for overdevelopment. So that's a big step forward. The other is that we are finally winding down our review of the downtown policies in the adopted plan and bringing forward some changes. That will take place September 30th. We've got a whole day set aside from dawn till dusk, and residents can register to speak to the proposed changes. There's a lot of information available online, thousands of pages and background reports, staff reports summarizing what the key changes from the adopted plan will be. That's available at getinvolved.ca, and you just go to taking a closer look at the downtown tab. And I really encourage people to get involved in the discussion. We want to hear from our residents. We're certainly hearing from the development industry, and I'd like to hear from residents on this as well. So make sure you mark those dates. There is a public, another virtual town hall on that coming up within about 2 weeks, so watch for details early next week on the next opportunity to ask your questions and provide feedback before the 30th of September.
And at least while the summer heat is still here, it seems Nelson Pool is a coveted spot for Burlingtonians.
Well, we have extended Nelson Pool for people. I know that that is welcome, and we are certainly having a warm August and September. We hope the warm weather continues. And we're gearing up for our fall season. Registration did open for a number of our community programs. And when I checked in with our staff, we had 1,400 people sign up for community programming, and there's a 200-person wait list. So people are really, really itching to get out and get back together in a safe manner with other people in person at our community facilities, including our senior center. So it will look different, as all services we're offering are redesigned as a result of COVID. There will be safety measures in place throughout, physical distancing, of course, cleaning and sanitation, and mandatory mask wearing. So we're really encouraged that people are feeling comfortable to come out, and we've put those safety measures in place so that they'll feel that way.
For those who can't seem to find a spot in the pool, Burlington's beach is also a popular destination, but they were having some overcrowding issues lately. I asked Mayor Mead Ward if there's been any improvement since we last spoke about that a few weeks ago.
Well, there's an ebb and flow based on the weather, of course. So this weekend it was much improved, that we had some cooler weather and some wind. I go down regularly. I go down a couple of times a week just to have a look at what's going on. And every time I've been there, people have been respecting physical distancing. It's important to remember that people in families can gather without physical distancing, and up to 100 people can be together outside if they maintain physical separation. So that can be a large group. And when people see a large group, not to worry immediately. They may not be breaking any rules, but certainly our bylaw staff are there. And we also patrol the parking lot. We have security down there, and we just ask folks, if you come down and you can't find a parking spot, there's parking available downtown. There's a pickup and drop off area, so you can drop off your gear and your family and park downtown, and then come down and enjoy the beach. Much nicer than parking illegally and getting a $250 fine. So we'll continue to monitor that, and then our staff will be working over the fall for recommendations on a longer term plan for the beach strip to make sure that everyone has an enjoyable experience when they come.
Well, Burlington Beach did not get its own spot on a recently released board game, but maybe your neighborhood or high school did. Nikki Wesley reports.
2 years ago, Walmart approached Outset Media, the creators of Catopoly, Dogopoly, and Beeropoly, with an idea. Senior Vice President of Outset Media, Jean-Paul Teske.
Why don't we do a line of games celebrating communities that we're in across Canada? And this it's the perfect format for it, which I thought is so true, because we can feature, not just streets, but landmarks and parks and even businesses.
Last year, they started with 30 cities and towns across Canada, including several major cities like Toronto and Vancouver. However, the city that sold out the fastest was a bit of a surprise.
More Sarniaopolis than we did probably Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary combined. It's more of a novelty. God knows there's enough Toronto merchandise. So I think it's a novelty for a smaller and mid-sized community to have something that's custom for them.
This year, they're nearing 100 cities and towns, and Burlington made the cut.
I always felt like Burlington had such a great sense of community that they would really like an idea like this. So when I was choosing locations for this year, I thought Burlington will be fantastic.
But the big question is, what is the Burlington equivalent of the boardwalk?
We don't want to play favorites. This is just meant to be a celebration of the different communities.
Oh, okay.
So there's a little bit of a cop-out with each game. Every game at Boardwalk is downtown, in this case, Burlington. We do feature, streets, obviously, like, we've got Upper Mill Road, we've got Walker's Line, Lakeshore Road. I helped actually develop this since I'm in Toronto.
It also has landmarks like the Burlington Art Gallery, various golf courses, and high schools. And you don't get sent to jail. Instead, you get stuck in traffic that we all know and love to hate on the highway.
So we try to, have as much in there that people will know and recognize. Monopoly is the best-selling game of all time, so people know how to basically play it. But I think it's so unique to be able to do it with landmarks that you've known and grown up around all your life.
The game can be found for a limited time at Walmart's in Burlington. Reporting for Halton News, I'm Nikki Wesley.
Yesterday, Oakville MP Anita Anand joined me on here to discuss securing contracts for vaccines to ensure Canada has doses available as soon as possible. But it's important to note that MP Anand also said that these vaccines will not be made mandatory.
I think it's really important to remember that it is an individual choice as to whether to take the vaccine or not. But to provide some assurance with regards to the safety, we would not allow a vaccine to be cleared for use unless Health Canada regulatory approval had been obtained. And so the safety of the vaccine is a priority for the Government of Canada and Canadians. And just as we have done with PPE usage, we would make sure that there is clearance from the regulatory body before any vaccine would be in use. And in fact, that's a term in our contracts.
MP Anand also sympathizes with all the tough decisions families and individuals are having to make at this time of year in this unprecedented time.
Well, I just wanted to wish everybody best of luck as they head back to school and back to work, as the case may be. And I know this is a stressful time for people in Oakville and Halton. And I just wanted to give them a shout out for really taking care in terms of the decisions that everyone is making. I know that one of the distinguishing characteristics of this country and this region is that we are following public health advice to the best of our ability. And I really appreciate that as a public servant. And I know that it is difficult sometimes, and I appreciate that stress, but I also wanted to wish everybody best of luck.
And as we head towards that first day of school, grandparents are facing a new dilemma as well. Nikki Wesley spoke with Chief Policy Officer for Canadian Association of Retired Persons, Bill Van Gorder, to get an idea of this issue.
You know, for many months, grandparents could not be near their grandchildren. They weren't quite sure. The bubbles weren't in place. They weren't allowed to have meetings with them. Then things have lightened up a little bit in the last few months. Now the kids are going back to school. It's like we're right back to square one again. And you know, often it's the grandparents who do the caregiving before and after school. So what do they do? Do they not support? Do they support if you have two grandparents, one whose health is compromised and the other isn't? Do they somehow stay apart so the uncompromised one can offer that help to their own children, the parents of the grandchildren? It puts them in a horrible dilemma, and there's really no good solution for it. I talked to a grandmother on Friday who was taking her grandchildren camping this past weekend, because she knew that from now on it might be months before they can get together in person again. And she was actually in tears as she was telling me that story.
Communicating with grandchildren, especially the younger ones, through a video conference can sometimes be difficult. CARP has created a list of suggestions to help grandparents continue to make that connection.
Many of our members told us that now that children are going back to school and seniors in a position of having to decide what they're going to do in terms of keeping contact or not with their children, they're looking for ways to stay in touch, even if they're not going to be able to be personally right with them for the next month or so. So we talked to a lot of our members who gave us all kinds of really good ideas about how you can stay in contact, a good contact with your grandchildren without being right in the same room. A grandfather and his two granddaughters are writing a story together, and they're taking turns writing paragraphs, moving the story along, and they're creating a story for other children in their extended family to be able to read. Another grandmother and her granddaughter are baking together via telephone. So they both have their telephones on, they're talking to one another, they're working from the same recipe in their own kitchens, and they're baking together, and the granddaughter is learning all the family recipes from grandmother, even though she's not right there in the same room with them. So there are many more things that you can do than just, sign on and have a bit of a face-to-face conversation with nothing else going on. on. You can watch TV, you can listen to music, you can read a book together. All those things you can do even though you're not right in the same room.
To see the full list of suggested virtual activities, go to carp.ca. We do need to take a short break. We'll be right back with your local weather forecast. Plus, we'll check in with a local psychiatrist, Dr. Ashok Bhattacharya, with advice that you can use. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Halton News. We are getting ready for your 5-day weather forecast. Taking a look after another beautiful day. Here's a look on 16 Mile Creek. Taking advantage of that summer sunshine. Look at that, paddleboarding. Beautiful shot there in 16 Mile Creek. Taking a look ahead. There's a chance of thunderstorms tomorrow, 25 degrees as our high, again on Thursday as well, but without that chance of rain. That's a mix of sun and cloud, and then cooler temperatures as we head closer towards the weekend. Full sun expected on Friday, 23 degrees as our high, only reaching 22 on Saturday. But of the 2 days, Saturday is looking like the better bet for any outdoor activities, as there is that 40% chance of rain on Sunday. And now let's take a look at how some of Halton's top companies performed on the markets today. We do need to take another short break, but we'll be right back with the latest from the Burlington Food Bank after this. Welcome back to Halton News. Dr. Ashok Bhattacharya is a local psychiatrist who's been updating us throughout the pandemic with information to benefit our mental health.
Dr. Ashok Bhattacharya at the Empathy Clinic here in Oakville, Ontario. So I want to talk about counterphobia. Counterphobia is a particular concern right now because of the pandemic and the amount of people who are stressed or experiencing post-traumatic stress. Counterphobia happens when an individual does something counter to their anxiety or their fears, hence counterphobia. For example, a lot of people who sign up for parachuting out of airplanes are actually afraid of heights. So I'm particularly concerned because a lot of people are feeling stressed and burnt out, especially how long this pandemic's been going on. So they might be likely to try to do something that is counter to the very fears and anxieties that we've had all along. This is risky behavior, acting dangerously, putting themselves or others at risk as well. So in order to avoid a counterphobic behavior, it's helpful to really reflect on what you're about to do. Maybe discuss it with somebody else. Also, if you hear somebody else who's discussing something that could become a dangerous behavior, they may be behaving counterphobically as well. So it's very important to keep that dialogue going. So before you do something that you might think might be at risk for yourself or for somebody else, give it good pause for concern, reflect on it, and hopefully discuss it with somebody else. So I hope this helps. Take care and be safe.
And now we'll check in with the Burlington Food Bank to see how they're doing now that it's September.
This is Robin Bailey, the Executive Director of the Burlington Food Bank. And one of the things that we celebrate in September is that it's actually Hunger Action Month, and that's through Food Banks Canada and Feed Ontario, as well as all of the local Feed Ontario members. We all kind of celebrate it, and one of the big things that you can do for us is actually educate yourself. So do a little bit of study. We'll try and do some educating for you throughout the month, but also if you do a little bit of study and look into some of the cruxes as to why people have to use food banks. It's not just about the hunger portion of it, but all kinds of other factors that lead to people having to use a food bank, whether it be low employment, that they're underemployed and not making enough, or if they're just unemployed, or if they're relying on social assistance. There's just a myriad of reasons as to why people have to use the food bank. So again, use this time throughout this month to educate yourself a little bit about hunger issues and sort of where they come from.
Townsend Smith Hospice Foundation provides access to palliative care for residents of Milton and Halton Hills, serving the needs of terminally ill people and their families. As a registered charity, they need your support to offer the care they provide, and they're hosting their first virtual Hike for Hospice later this month. The funds raised will be used to build the first hospice in North Halton. The event date is Saturday, September 26th at 10 a.m., and you're invited to hike, walk, bike, or run wherever you like. For more information and to register, please visit townsendsmith.ca. Senior Centers Without Walls is a free and program for multi-person phone conversations for those 50 plus. They help you to stay engaged, connected, learning, and having fun from the comfort of home. There are 30 to 60-minute sessions offered on various topics Monday through Friday starting at 10 a.m. To connect, call the number on your screen and then enter the passcode 809-666-pound, then say your name followed by pound, and you're entered for that conversation. Joseph Brand Hospital's antique and collectible auction will be online this year. The online auction will be held over several days starting September 26th. Winning bidders will need to pick up their items on the pickup day, which is September 30th, between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. at the Holiday Inn Burlington Hotel and Conference Center. For more information, including a one-day person viewing of the lots, please visit jbhauctions.com. Canada's largest Rib Fest, a fundraising initiative of Burlington Rotary Lakeshore, is thrilled to announce the return of their drive-through Rib Fest this Labor Day, Monday, September 7th at Burlington Center in the mall's parking lot. Ribs and other Rib Fest staples such as chicken, pulled pork, corn, and donuts will be served from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., along with fantastic entertainment that you can enjoy from the comfort and safety of your vehicle. Cogeco is happy to be a sponsor of this second Rib Fest drive-through, as well as to provide a special treat for all attendees. For more information, please visit canadaslargestribfest.com. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in to Halton News. We'll be live again tomorrow night at 5:30. Until then, you can find more content on yourtv.tv. For Halton News, I'm Jessica Kading.